All right, who wants to kick it off? Are you going to kick it off, Steve, Kevin?
I can kick it off real quick and then we'll go to Kevin. Laurel Gorville is joining us as a member of the Board of Health. That budget is up tonight. Laurel, I know you're on mute and you're on dark screen, and that's okay. I just wanted to say that I have, Ruth has been given a papal dispensation for being at tonight because she is on the trail of vaccine. And I thought that was more important, and that you are welcome to join us, or Kevin and I could handle that budget, but at least in this committee. So
I'll just listen because, you know,
okay.
I just don't make sure that, you know how special we are. So. You
are very special, very special. So anyways, very, very quickly, and then Kevin will jump in and maybe he can jump into the Board of Health budget first. You know, after through the town council on 222 and through FinCom on 225 will be the vast majority of the town hall budgets. The only one that will be left over is DPW, and I was told I would have that in my hand before I left the building today, and I don't have it yet, so we'll take care of Joe, huh? Right, Kevin? Although that's for a while, but all in, these budgets are at a level of 2.58% over last year, which I'm pretty pleased about. Some big items out there we don't have yet is the GIC, and I will have some figures on that on March 4th is when they have their meeting, but I hope I'm on track there. School department, hopefully you guys will get a report on that at our next FinCom meeting, but I think the department heads have done a very, very good job of following our directive of only really keeping everything as low as they can. So that being said, why don't we jump into Board of Health unless you had anything, Mr. Chairman? No? Okay. Go ahead, Kev, you're up. Why don't we do Board of Health first?
Okay, Board of Health, we're requesting an increase of $7,983 over the current year. This increase breaks down under personal services. There's an increase of $6,045. This is a contractually negotiated increase. I do want to point out that this position was upgraded, so that's why that salary went up more than normal. Under contractual services, the overall increase is $1,569. We did increase the public health nurse's hours. In the current year, she's at 11 hours. Next year, we're putting her to 17 and a half hours. We share the public health nurse with Melrose, and we're hoping Melrose follows suit and bumps that up. So we're sharing a full-time public health nurse. Also under contractual services, if you see on that page, we are going to be submitting a CARES reimbursement for half the cost of the increase for the health nurse. So we were able to do that to help lower the cost. And I also want to note on the allocation page of the budget that there were some, the two inspectors, one inspector left, one inspector bumped up into that higher position, and a new inspector was hired. So there was an overall savings there to help lower the cost of the overall increase to that line item. There was a small increase to mosquito control, and the total tax levy request for fiscal 22 is $277,023. We do bring in some revenue in this department in the vicinity of $40,000 to $50,000 a year for various inspections.
Yeah, and I will say in the clerical position upgrade, we had brought in the Collins Center a couple of years ago, and they looked at our entire clerical union. We brought them in and looked at the entire DPW union and our supervisors union. So we've gone through an outside auditor study of all of our bargaining units, exception of police and fire. And I got to say that this one in health was clearly a miss. Evan always says that they come in too high. They came in too low on this one. Clearly a miss. This is definitely a highest level 9 on our clerical union because of the complexity that the position handles. And probably never any more evident this year than last year, this year than other years with the COVID-19, everything that's going on. I will say that this department is out straight. It has been a great collaboration with Melrose. I will tell you candidly that in a pandemic like this, I think both of our communities would wish that we had a single health agent because she is pulled in very different directions constantly, and but we can't budget everything and manage everything for the pandemic. Hopefully this will be over and we'll be back to having a normal run-of-the-mill health where we can worry about, I don't know, bad food at a restaurant. I won't even say a name other than this. Health department and the health board has been also working, health board working very hard. They're at all the clinics helping out, and can't say enough about this budget. And I would love to see us with the public health nurse, love increasing the hours. There's a big call for that. There will be a big call for that in the future. And the work they've been doing on that department with substance abuse, the reduction and recovery and families and what have you it's still ongoing, and it's not getting the press that it deserves because of the pandemic, but they really are operating on all cylinders, and I frankly don't know how much longer they'll be able to. So we're all a little stressed over there, right, Laurel?
Okay, Teray and Dawn, do you have any questions on this one?
Yeah, so Kevin, I might have missed this. So the Si Wuongo, that's is that the nurse or is that the?
That's the clerical help in the office.
Okay.
That position was upgraded.
Okay. So the nurse is actually in the professional services, is that right?
That's correct. That we share services with Melrose. So a portion of the Ruth Clay, who's the health agent for the town. She's also the health agent for Melrose. We also share 2 inspectors between Wakefield and Melrose, and that all comes out of that professional services line item in the budget, not the personal services.
Okay, good. So,
Those are going to be my questions, so I'm all set. Thank you.
Good. Great minds think alike.
Steve, the clerical individual here, was this reclassification? Was it like an out of cycle reclassification, or was it part of the contract?
No, it was, we do have a, in our clerical union contract that if department head feels that a position is unclassified or is misclassified, I should say, they can reach out through both the union and through our human resources office, and then it comes to me. And this was clearly a miss, in my opinion, by the Collins Center.
So do you mind if I just ask you to go into that a little bit in terms of, not the individual, but what justifies the reclassification? Because I'm familiar with that process. But
well,
let me just preface it by saying I've always been a little bit shy about granting these requests. I've done it, but it's only because what you do is essentially permanently upgrade the position, right? You never get that back. You never get it back to 8. You could, but or whatever the grade is that's listed there. So there are exceptions to it, and given what we've gone through in the last year, that there might be a really good exception for it going forward. But so I just want to preface that by saying that that's sort of where I'm headed here.
Absolutely, and this would have been done anyway. This is outside of the pandemic. Okay. It should be upgraded. I look at it this way, and we spent a lot of time in classifying, whether you are a 5, a 6, a 7, an 8, or a 9 in the clerical union. 9 being what we're talking about here. And if you're classified as a 9, you really have to do some independent working, okay? And you're going to have to make some judgment calls in the office. And I juxtapose that as someone who is processing bill payment. That's all they do. They get a bill, they stamp it, they put it in the pile, right? There's no judgment there. There's a lot of judgment here in dealing with a lot of health issues from, kids are playing on the playground, to we have overcrowding at this restaurant, to we have a concrete factory that is blowing smoke and dust. So this person is actually, making a judgment call, where to get this, how to do this, how to do that. There's a lot of interaction with the public in problem solving as opposed to just processing. There's just a lot of work being done by this thing. And and Laurel just reminded me a lot of triage, which is kind of like the building department. Like Gail is making that position that she has. I always say positions, not people. Position that she has is making a judgment call. Yes, you need to go to the Board of Appeals. Yes, you need to file this way. Kind of the same thing that happens in the Board of Health. So we looked at all of those, and some people weren't happy when we did that. I think we talked about it a few years ago. A lot stayed the same, a couple went down, and a couple went up, and this one stayed the same, and it should have gone up. And good job by the union to recognize that, and by our personnel to meet with them, and personnel department and department head to support it. So.
Well, it's the union's job. It's the union's job to recognize that always, but the credit may be with you to recognize that it was missed by Collins. I see Ms. Gorville here has weighed in. Do you want to weigh in, Ms. Gorville?
I was just trying to give a better word in regards to triage, which we use in healthcare all the time. But this position, and we talked about this as well a few years ago when somebody else held the position, that there was a lot of training that is involved, and that they are the face of the department, especially when we share resources. Sometimes they're it, and so they have to make as Steve is saying, I definitely support the independent nature of the role. This is definitely someone who is considered part of the team. So I applaud the recommendation.
She's also the only person in the health department that actually works for me. So as it's going, right? Everything else is under
Well, true, with your grant work. But we are a happy family.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
We're a very stressed out happy family.
Sometimes we throw plates at each other, but it works out.
Okay, Steve. So it was an out of cycle request, not part of the contract.
Yeah, absolutely was. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Steve, when this is done, is it upgraded at the time that the evaluation is completed, or is there any retroactive?
No retroactive, no.
Okay.
And Steve, is it upgraded? I expect it's upgraded subject to appropriation. If it's already there and you can.
No, and I've done it contractually. Frankly, I would find the money to pay for it anyway. So this is
Right.
not they are voting just as part of the budget.
Yeah, I don't mean special appropriation, but subject to availability of funds. Okay.
Oh yeah, but that's.
It sounds like you feel pretty strongly about it. I'm certainly not going to sit here and question your management approach. And it sounds pretty justified to me. Anything else on Board of Health?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand, and sorry to revisit this. So Steve, you said you explained, I guess, class 9 or whatever, C9 or step 9. Is that the highest step for a position, or is there a class? I'm trying to figure out sort of where.
Highest classification.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 9 is the highest. Okay.
Highest classification, and then, however, there are steps in the 9, right? So there might be some lateral, but if you're a C9 at the end, and I don't know, was she C9 6 or 4?
It looks like 6.
6. Kevin, do you remember how many there are? 7 or 8, maybe?
I thought there was at least 7. I think it's good.
So, and what I've really tried over the years, because when you go back, you're always trying to get rid of some sins of the past. And I'm sure when I'm gone, people do that too. I've tried to make steps within a classification a 1.5% increase.
Okay.
Now, what you will find, when we go and you do some of these budgets, sometimes when something stepped from like a 3 to a 4 or a 2 to a 3, it jumped up by 4%. And there's no other explanation about why that happened other than someone on the bargaining team was in that too and snuck that in. There's no other explanation that I can think of. So I've tried to be very consistent. So I think maybe there's one more step here, but that's the highest classification. So.
Okay.
And so Steve, along the same lines as Teray was asking, what was the justification from going from, so she was on, or he or she was on 7 at class 8 or grade
Right.
8, and they went to 6?
I think that if had it gone to a C9,
Eating it all at once?
higher, you'd be getting too much of a bump at once.
Okay.
We try to keep that in a fair
Okay.
manner.
Okay. All right, very good.
My philosophy there on promotions, because you may move up, is that, you could be a C7, right? And you're moving up to a C8, all right? Just because you took a promotion, you took another position. I'm not going to move you to a C8-1 and you'd lose money. I
Right.
mean, I'd like to see you get a little bit of a bump when you do that. So that happened here, but not,
So you found that sweet spot, sort of.
Yeah. Usually that's in the 4 to 5% range. Here it was a little bit higher because of the things, but that's what we try to do.
Yeah, it's a little bit higher on a percentage basis, but
Yeah.
in terms of real dollars, it's not that big a chunk. So.
Right, exactly.
But I'm sure it means a lot to the employee.
Yeah, great employee, by the way. Excellent. I
Yep,
don't
I
know
understand.
how she does it right now.
All right, anything else on the Board of Health?
No, we have our next meeting tonight, another vaccine clinic to prepare for and vaccine to find. So.
Yeah.
All right, take good care. Thank you, everybody.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Laurel, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, what's next, Kevin?
Next budget, next 2 budgets, actually. We're going to do the general insurance and the workers' comp budget. I don't know if everyone can see John Spinello is with us tonight. John is not a town employee, but he is the town's insurance agent. I don't know if everyone's met John before. I'll jump in real quick, give a quick overview of the general insurance budget. Then I'll let John speak a little bit about it. The general insurance budget, we're recommending an increase of $23,200 over the current year. This increase breaks down $21,500 to the tax levy portion, $1,100 to the water division, $600 to the sewer division. This budget covers the town buildings, motor vehicles, professional liability, and cyber security. Total budget request is $460,425, with $423,025 coming from tax levy, $23,800 from the water enterprise, $13,600 from the sewer enterprise. Before I turn it over to John, I do want to mention it, and Steve and I usually do. We'll mention it at Finance Committee also. We will need a small reserve fund transfer to close out fiscal 21 on this budget. With that, I'll turn it over to John to speak a little bit about the general insurance.
Welcome, John.
Thank you. Typical of most years, in January, it's very difficult to try to get a handle on what the renewal premiums are going to be in July. You really can't get a commitment from the carrier. They're only halfway through their program and they really don't know, what their losses are going to be. So if I talk to them, they're going to say, just put in 4 or 5%. And the process has been over many, many years, and especially with Steve and I, is sometime in mid-April, I get renewal applications and questions from the carrier. They'll send them back, and usually in May, we get May 15th, we get pricing in. In between there's some things going back between myself and the company where I sit around and tell them how great we are and our loss ratio and our history with them and everything. They tell us, well, the market is this. And some way we seem to settle in the middle. And then I sit down with Steve and May and Kevin, and we kind of hash out what the pricing is going to be. Now, in the last fall, I mean, it looked pretty dire for the industry in terms of price increases. We were seeing 8, 10, 12, 15% on some smaller accounts. But I have some larger accounts, $300,000 or $400,000 that have renewed in the first quarter here. And I'm seeing flat renewals. Carriers have responded, I think, to what's going on. And I think their pricing is in line with the circumstances. We will have an increase here, as we do every year, because they increase the building and contents by a certain percent. So that usually rolls on $3,000 or $4,000 in there. Last year, we added cyber liability and data compromise. Now, industry-wide, claims are up as you might expect, on that over 400%. I don't know about the municipal program in terms of what their loss history is on this so far, but countrywide, it's up 400%. So when I thought about it, I was going to put in for a flat budget just because I thought it might work and just kind of fight it out. But then, I rationalized with myself that, a 4.5% increase was maybe necessary. Now, this budget bills out on July 1st, 95% of it. So we'll know in May what the budget's going to look like, and we'll bill it out. If there's anything left, and obviously they can take that if they like. The only thing we have to do is save for some bonds in early spring, because there's no billing of it during the regular, 7/1 to 7/1 period. So I kind of just put that out there, and I can't sit here and tell you I know exactly what it's going to be, because most years we don't. Workers' compensation, which is next, I can tell you exactly in January. I know what the rates are, what the payroll is, and what our experience is. This one, it's like throwing darts. So I kind of just threw that out there and see what's going to happen.
I will say John's track record is excellent, though.
Yeah, we
Very lucky to have him.
last year, we actually took away a coverage. We picked up a few dollars and we bought cyber liability. We kind of prioritized what our needs were. So we dropped one, which I thought we could afford to lose, and pick up something that I thought we couldn't afford not to have, in the cyber liability and data compromise. It was funny because, Steve and I had been talking about that with the IT department, and we bought it before the pandemic. And then you had a bunch of people working from home. So it really, it was a coverage that was very comforting to have, I guess, during that time.
Terrain, Dawn?
So Steve, does this just cover municipal side, or does it cover municipal and school?
Municipal and school, correct, Kevin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, school makes up probably 80% of both budgets.
Wow.
Yeah.
80?
Well, the school buildings are, we have 300 million in buildings.
Oh, okay. I see.
Right. And in terms of workers' comp, you get 700 employees. So yeah, they make up the biggest portion of property insurance is probably almost 40% of this budget. And the schools are probably 80% of our values.
Okay. Now, John, it sounds like, in fairness to you, even though you characterize it as throwing darts, you didn't exactly throw darts here. I'm assuming this is your best projection.
I think we can work with that, especially when I pull out the crying rag and tell them I don't have any money in the budget as it is. So, when you have a good relationship with your underwriter in the company, there's always room for compromise. And it's a very small window we're talking about here. I mean, I know it's, $20,000, but, on a $450,000 budget, there's a small window that we work within, and they try to work with me and I try to work with them. So somehow in the end, we always seem to work it out. We always come within a few dollars. I think we're a couple $1,000s over in this year's budget. Cyber liability costs us a little more than I wanted to spend, but it was coverage I thought we really needed.
Did you say cyber liability, cybersecurity?
Cyber liability and data compromise, both. We picked it up last year.
It's funny. I was just, as somebody who knows next to nothing about cybersecurity, I was sitting in the IT subcommittee meeting, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and it was like really terrifying to think about what could happen if we didn't meet the standards for coverage, for cybersecurity coverage. So that was pretty eye-opening for me. So yeah, that's worth spending the money on.
It was $8,500. It was well worth spending. But on the cyber side, it's more of a physical hacking into our system by someone outside, or a virus that brings us to a complete halt.
Right.
We're halted. We got to get it up, the system up, and get the data restored, so that we pick up coverage for that. The data compromise coverage. We that's where someone has compromised our system and has picked up information on employees. Could be third-party vendors. Of course, now a lot of payments in the town are by credit cards. So any of that information that is left out or is made public, we have a public relations problem, as well as we have to notify, the the state and everyone that, we've been compromised, and this is the information that's out there. So it was necessary to get away from the equipment breakdown coverage we had with a high deductible and move into this area, I thought.
It makes a lot of sense to this novice in that field.
Well, I'm a novice when it comes to technology. I could barely get on this, but those things, the insurance part, I understand.
Yeah, I get it. Anybody else?
Do the carriers have some type of security audit guidelines or things like that that are provided to us, or is that something that just the IT department does on their own?
Yeah, we actually are putting together a little working group to talk about that. So I prefer to come back in an executive session someday and just divulge all that, Don. I think you understand.
Yeah.
A good idea. Yep. Teray, you all set?
Yeah, I'm all set. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, John. You're on to your next budget now, right?
Yes, I am.
He's thrilled on this one.
It's about time.
I'll give a quick overview, then turn it over to
Go ahead.
John. We're recommending a decrease to this budget of $65,079 over the current year. This decrease breaks down $56,883 to the tax levy portion. There's a decrease of $2,656 to the water division. Decrease of $1,734 to the sewer division. A decrease to the light department of $3,806. Total budget requests $472,540, with $420,990 coming from tax levy, $11,124 coming from the water enterprise, $6,202 coming from the sewer enterprise, and $34,224 coming from the gas enterprise. I'll turn it over to John. Let John let them hear all the good news.
Well, it's been the first time in probably 30 years I've had to say something like this, but yeah, I mean, we had a good year last year. So what influences this budget is our experience, our loss experience, payroll, and whatever the current rates are. And, for the better part of 10 years, we've had rate decreases in Massachusetts. So we have 17 different classifications on here, obviously from school to DPW to clerical to gas and light. So the best thing, the easiest way for me to do this is on our experience rating worksheets. Okay, if you have that, page 1, it would be helpful. I don't know if everyone has that or not. If you don't, yes, no.
Do we have that, Steve?
Yeah, I have a yeah.
It should have been sent out, yeah.
Yeah, I do. It's experience rating, WCRIP. Yep.
Yeah, Workers' Compensation and Rating Bureau. So the best way to do this is to go to the columns. There's 4 columns where it says 17, 18, and 19. There's 4 columns across there. The first 2 are our actual losses, and the next 2 are what's expected. Our expected losses are based on our payroll. So if you look at there's 2 parts to the experience rating. There's losses of $5,000 or less. Okay, that's our experience rating, and that measures frequency. Then we have our ARAP charge, all risk adjustment premium. That's for large losses over $5,000, and that measures severity. Years ago, they used to combine them. Now they separate them to kind of find out, is the employer just having big losses or small losses? So if you look at the actual incurred losses in column 1, you'll see in 17, we had $228,000. We will lose that next year. That's actually not a bad year. That's actually not a bad year for us, 228. Then we have the 294, which is going to move up 1. And then the $80,000, which was just an incredible year, is going to go in the middle. Currently, as of last week, we had $46,000 in losses. And last year at this time, we had 44. So we're on a really good path here. A lot of it has to do with, especially last year, a lot of it had to do with the weather. If you think in December of 19, we had a snowstorm. That was the last snowstorm we had of the year. So in municipal workers' compensation, you have slip and falls, strains and sprains. So if you think about the 700 employees that go into the town hall, the library, and all the schools, custodial, cafeteria, when you remove that slip and fall factor of the ice and snow, you really reduce down your losses. And that's exactly what happened last year. Because I always tell this story, and I think it was February 6th, I was walking the lake and I was coming by the Congo church and they were mowing the grass beside the Congo church. I mean, when have you seen that in February? I don't want to take away from the fact that it was a good year because we still had our high classifications out there working. We had the light department doing that Salem, light and gas, doing the Salem and New Salem Street project. Highway was out, park and forestry, cemetery. So it was a good year. And then at the back end, of course, we eliminated all slip and falls when in March, when we kind of shut everything down and everyone worked remotely. So it was a very good year for us. So those are our actual losses. And you see the bottom of that is $603,000. 2 years ago, it was 980, almost $1 million in losses. So it's been a nice path, like I say, we've been on. The next column is actual primary losses. That measures small losses, okay? Anything under 5,000. Those are our actual losses from 55 down to 37. That's our experience mod, measures frequency. So the next column is expected losses, and another one is expected primary losses. Our expected losses based on our payroll in 17 was 212. We had 228. Believe me, for us, that was a good year. And then we had the 225 against the 294. So that was a difficult year for us. And then you see that it was 234 compared to the $80,000. So that was really why it took our experience mod last year, which was 1.12, and our ARAP charge was 1.09, which was 0.121, down to 104. So there's 17 points that came off our experience mod just because of that good year we had last year. Our expected primary losses, what they expect us to have in the small losses, okay, was 33, 35, and 37. And if you look at that 19 year, that 37, it almost matches our actual primary losses of 37.5. Very close. Keep that number down, our experience goes down. So I'll quickly go through this. If you can get to page 3 for me.
John, before you go to page 3, can I just ask a question?
Absolutely.
So you've got under the coverage, you've got the dates, 7/1/2019. Is that the beginning date or the ending date of the policy year?
That is the beginning.
The beginning
So
date.
17, 18, 18, yeah. So that 19 is 19 to 20. And right now, of course, we're in this year. So this year will end 6/30. And then there's it'll go, our experience will be calculated in January for the next year, which would be 22, based on what's going on right now. It ends on 6/30 for us, correct?
Okay, so I'm just used to looking at reports that show the end
Yeah,
date, not the beginning date.
I
So
know, sorry about
just
that.
wanted to make sure I was.
Yeah. So the next 2 pages, actually in the left-hand columns, they show you all the class codes and whether the claims are open or closed. And the first time ever that I can remember in the 3-year experience period, we only have 1 open claim. And believe it or not, that open claim it was over $100,000, which is 1/6 of our total claim. So usually we have 5 or 6 claims going that are open all the time. So that's a good report. But I do want to, if on page 3, over to the right-hand side, it'll say down the bottom payroll. And let's just take the teachers, for instance, and the code is 8868, and it's almost $35 million of payroll. Does everyone see that part so far? Okay, I'll assume that you do. So it's $35 million of payroll, and the expected loss is 33 cents. The rate is 64 cents. The rest goes to the carrier and loss control, underwriting, and all that. So they say out of that 64 cents on a state average, we should have 33 cents set aside for losses based on that payroll, which means that we can have both small and large losses of $114,000 and not go over the state average. And then the D ratio brings us back for the small losses. It's 0.16. So we cannot have any more than $18,000 in small losses, basically, or else we're going to go over in that particular class. Obviously, it's all rated together, but I'm just giving an example that with teachers and administrators, we have $114,733. That is a state average for that class, for that payroll. And that's how we arrive at our expected losses, both on small and large. And last year we were significantly below. And right now we are tracking exactly like last year. I don't like the idea we've had snow in the last couple of weeks.
Neither do I.
Yeah, you increase the slip and falls, but that's part of what we do. But even if it doubled or tripled or even went up 4 times from 46,000 to 180, I'll take a 180 with a payroll. Our expected losses last year was 234,000. It probably goes up by $2,000 more. So our expected losses are probably $236,000 as our payroll increases. So we have room there. I mean, you never know. One bad loss throws out my theory altogether. And I can tell you, I hunt these losses down all the time. I'm always on top of them because I always like to bring good news. So I think that if we're in that 140 to 150, we would probably go on the credit side next year for the first time that maybe ever. So our experience mod instead of 102 could go to the credit side. And also Mega has on file with the Division of Insurance scheduled credits for those accounts that go under 1. So, the next 4 months, keep my fingers crossed. It could be something that, this budget decreases again and we can expand our payroll. So that's about it, I think.
Don, Ray, this is Frank. Oh, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
It's a lot to unpack there, but I think this is let's say this is a benefit of the pandemic. All right, people weren't coming into the office as much in a lot of areas, so you don't have those slip and falls and what have you. But on the other hand, the department heads have done over the years training, silly things like lift with your legs, keep your office area clean. We had someone years ago that tripped over a barrel that was in the wrong spot when they got out of their desk. So there's like little things that we go on that too. But this is a great number. And you know what? I think the other part is that we do have some of our personnel that is getting a little bit younger in some areas, so they're a little bit more robust. And it's also important to point out is that the 2 groups that aren't in here are police and fire. Police and fire are handled by indemnification. So you can imagine if there was injuries there, how that would go up so high. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But this is really good news. We've had some tough years there over the years, but this is really good.
Well, it's a good point.
Oh, go ahead, John. Sorry.
No, sorry. No, Steve and I, we met last week with Kevin, and I was saying, I've been doing this so long, and I'm wondering why we keep decreasing our losses. A lot of it has to do with, healthier, younger employees. Their bodies are not as compromised. I think people eat healthy. I think they're healthier in general. I think the stock market has fueled 401ks and people want to work. And so I think there's a lot of reason why we're seeing a decrease in the number, because 30 years ago, you could book 50 to 56 claims guaranteed. Then it went to 40, then 30. And I always keep thinking why. And then obvious things, technology, right? Now we do everything by phone, right? You can get to people earlier, stay home if it's snowing out. Our snow removal equipment is better. Our equipment in general is better. So I think technology is playing a role here too. So, I'd take good experience over rate decreases anytime. And because you can always, you can't get away from good experience. And right now I'd like to see this trend this way for a couple of years anyways to take the benefit of it, because Lord knows we paid enough on the other end when our losses were high. So.
Anything else, gentlemen, for John? Is this your last budget, John?
Yes.
Anything else?
One quick thing, just to throw a little bit of cold water on the good news.
Of course.
we are gonna look for a reserve fund transfer this year to close out this budget. We're probably looking at, I think, John, what we're talking about 35,000, 37,000 in that ballpark. And that had to do with the payroll being a little bit higher than what was budgeted when we calculated this budget.
The,
Can
the,
I-
over, the overall payroll?
Can I just speak on that for a second?
Yeah, of course.
So we were putting in, I was putting in for 3.5%, 4%, and and the teachers had a contract for 5%, and overtime plays a role in here too. So trying to get a hold, your arms around that budget on that payroll was difficult. So we're always finding ourselves falling behind. Yes, I think if you take a $500,000 budget or whatever it's going to be, if you're within 3% of that, or $15,000 in premium or payroll, I think you're doing okay, because you can't calculate highway department overtime, water and sewer and all that stuff. So I made a point last year to increase it by 8%. So we're probably going to have a credit coming this year, because our payroll's up somewhere around 52.5 million. And our latest audit was around 50 million. We increase about 1.5 every single year. So on top of that, though, even though it sounds bad at $35,000, it sounds terrible to me, 21% of that was our experience rating. So it wasn't just the payroll, it was the payroll plus we're paying so much in our experience rating. It really ballooned that number up. It would be significantly less, obviously, if we had the same mods we have today.
So can I just ask, because I frankly, half of this, John, if not more, is above my pay grade. You're getting pretty technical on me, and I'm not as quick as you. How did we miss the payroll thing? Or I don't know who this is directed to, but is this budget done before we know what the contracts are going to be? You mentioned the schools that came in higher than the infamous 4% range in Wakefield, but how does that process work, and how does it sort of get missed like that?
Usually in January, I'll talk to Kevin and Steve, mostly Kevin, on what we're going to increase, and we'll throw a number around. And by July, I don't know whether we're behind or not.
Okay, I got you. Yep. The budget timing here is, when you're in a town, it's pretty early. So
It's and really it was just 2 years that we kind of we had to try to play catch up with it. And playing catch up with a high mod is really difficult. So right now, these mods are done. You can kind of expand the payroll and still have a decrease in the budget. So I think that's what our plan is for the next year or two. But yes, it did get out of hand. It go way ahead of us.
I don't know. I don't blame you for you didn't have much to go on, it sounds like, at the time with the budget timing. So Steve and Kevin, anything to add?
No, all set.
No, again, John does a great job. So I'm very happy with this.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, don't let my last question let you think otherwise.
No.
I was just curious how the process works, because I frankly don't understand what you do, John.
No, that's okay.
So I'm trying to learn a little bit here too, without wasting everyone's time.
My only complaint is that the 3,800 to the MLD should have also been put in the tax levy, but that's another story.
What do you say?
All right.
The 3,800 reduction to the MLD we should have given to the tax levy as well, but that's another issue.
No. Gotta be
I
fair.
know.
Gotta be fair.
I know.
All right. Anything else for John before we let him go?
Oh, thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thank you, John. You're great.
Yeah,
Have a good night, everyone. I'll see you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right, Kevin, onward.
Next budget is the animal control budget. We're recommending a decrease of this budget of $44,811. This increase breaks down. There's a decrease of $75,886 in personal services, and that's due to a retirement. We increased contractual services. We're looking to contract out the animal control duties. There's a decrease in materials and supplies of $3,475. Main expenses under contractual services is the professional services, which we're going to use to contract out the duties of the animal control officer. We have under sundry charges, we got a $3,000 line item, and that's for the the dog pound fee that we paid this August. The total budget request is $40,600.
So I can jump in and I gave a little blurb in my cover letter to everybody. So we do have a retirement in this department, a longtime employee that's retired. And I felt and I feel that this is an area where we should combine with other communities, or another community, I should say. And I'm already exploring that. So this would turn into a contractual, kind of like the health department. It's contractual, not payroll. I would do with another. So that's why you have a decrease in personal services and an increase in contractual. Right now, the way that we will handle this, and we are handling it right now and we'll continue until we make that agreement, is that we have someone on call who handles animal issues. Right now, we have very few. A, it's winter. B, there's a lot of people home. There's not a lot of strays right now. There probably will be more when the spring comes in, and I'm hoping to have an agreement with another community in regards to this by that time. There has been a retirement in one of our neighboring communities, so we're already talking about hopefully combining in this budget, and our appropriation there would be roughly the 35,000 in there versus the 75 before. So I always look for ways to keep the service the same and pay less for it, or to increase the service and pay the same. And hopefully in this area, we'll hit both. That's it. And it kind of goes hand in hand with parking, which we'll talk about next, because there's a little bit of an increase there.
Well, Steve, do you want to just talk to that now so we can understand it, the whole picture?
Okay. Sure. So the way it's been working right now, I mean, we do have a parking clerk. And the parking clerk is not the parking enforcement officers, not the people that go out and give the tickets. They're really the people that process the tickets when they come in, hear appeals, which you can do online now, or come into the town hall, but it's really all online now. And that duty was handled by the animal control officer when our parking clerk kind of phased down because of it being in retirement age. I put additional duties. I don't know how I got that through the union either, but they just agreed for no pay, no extra pay. So I know you like that, Evan. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have the former animal control officer, who will be retired, who will work as the parking clerk. And that will be on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. So it's 12 hours. Every week, 6 hours every week, 12 hours bi-weekly at a rate of $25 an hour. And that's in the parking budget. That's the personal services item in there. That's why that is increased. Reason why it's important to have a parking clerk anticipating that position. Why don't you just have someone else do it? We really need someone to handle that position because it'll all keep all the crap away from other people, namely me. And the biggest issue that we run into is people that are at the Registry of Deeds, Registry of Motor Vehicles, who are either renewing their license or, registering a car. And lo and behold, it pops up that they have, $100 in unpaid parking tickets to the town of Wakefield, and they live in Falmouth. And they can't get this. I love those calls because eventually they come to me and people are screaming and going crazy because they thought, hey, we would never be chasing them, right? They'll never be in Wakefield again. Well, there's a long arm of the law because those unpaid tickets go to the Registry of Motor Vehicles and they actually collect them for us. So you need someone who can handle that, who can go into the computer, make the change and what have you. And it's not going to happen that day, but every other day is fine. I do cover during vacations and I hate it because it is very intensive and people are crazed when they come in on that. Or someone has one person sent in their mother to pay his tickets or to argue his tickets. And he claimed that he had none in Wakefield or had paid them. I said, geez, let's get your son on the phone. We got our son on the phone. He says, oh yeah, I never paid those. And the poor mother slammed the phone down. She goes, I said, you know what? We're going to waive some of these late fees for you because she was so distraught. And so, I mean, it is when you combine those two budgets together, I think that there's still a net savings. The service will be the same. So that's how I'm kind of looked at that in there right now. So that's kind of the method to my madness.
Got it. Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions?
No, that was helpful. I was going to ask about, why the increase in personal services in the parking budget, but that explanation was on point. So thank you.
Yeah, and there are two people in there. One is a longtime older employee, and he does do a little bit for us, but he cannot handle the registry piece. So that's why Kenny's hanging on there.
Yeah.
But, it's a position that it is very helpful. You can't have the town clerk's office do it. It just would be too intensive on them. And frankly, sometimes these people come in are a little bit nasty. So
Yeah.
you need someone who can stand up to them. Which we can.
Yeah, no, I think that the way we're using both the animal and parking makes sense, and it's a way to keep cost in total down. So this is pretty good. And it looks like we don't have as much of a high need for animal services as I thought, but I don't have any animals, so I was kind of.
We don't, but I will tell you what I think is coming down the pike in the next couple of years, and we kind of talked about this with some of my compadres in surrounding communities. And by the way, they're not finding the big need for it either.
Yeah.
So that's why it's great to combine with another community, is that a lot of people are getting pets right now, dogs particularly. And you know what? In a couple of years, when COVID is all gone, they're going to look at this dog and say, why did I do this? And so there is some concern in the industry about that. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah.
So,
Also, someone to inspect and investigate issues at the dog park and dog bites and things like that. So you need someone that is certified by the state to do this.
so Steve, if I understood you correctly, you said animal control was great training to be the parking clerk. Is that what you said?
No, I said we use the same. Yeah, maybe. Maybe it is. Yeah. A good play on words, Don. Yes, it was. I think you guys should come in and handle some of those complaints. Maybe a lot of fun.
Hey, been there, done that, pal.
I know.
I
gotta
do.
tell you, when they're not from Wakefield, my sympathy really goes down.
Yeah, don't blame you.
And it's great. You ask them the question. They come and complain about a ticket. Well, it says you parked in a sidewalk. Did you a crosswalk? Did you park in the crosswalk? Well, yeah, I did, but I had to go to the bathroom. What does that have to do with anything? I'm sorry. And then I had to go to the dollar store. What? I mean, there's no argument, lady. And then you're from Reading. See you later. Oh God, but it's a lot of fun. It breaks up the day.
So Steve, and forgive me, I may well have missed this. I was running around, my computer was about to die. I had to find the charger, but you're looking to regionalize this operation, yeah?
In the animal control, in the animal inspector, yes.
Okay. And you
And
are,
actually, the person we're using right now, who is covering for a contract basis, she and her husband actually work for a number of communities on a per call basis. I don't think that's ideal for us, but it'll get us through the short hump.
sure. Okay. So you're working on some kind of an IMA with a town.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. Good stuff. I love that. That's
I know you do.
makes a lot of sense. Okay. Did we move on to the parking clerk budget while I was away, or are we still on animal?
We kind of discussed them in tandem.
Right.
I did say that we're still going to maintain a parking clerk. It will be 6 hours a week, mainly to handle the registry of motor vehicles and the processing of tickets and the appeals process.
Okay. So Kevin, Steve did a good job, I think, here of giving us an overview on the parking budget. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just a couple things. Steve talked about the increase in personal services, and that's for the Kenny State, the former animal control, coming over into that department. Under contractual services, we do have a decrease. We reduced the printing and binding in the professional services line items. Those costs are actually now falling under the police department. The traffic control officers, parking enforcement officers fall under that budget. The they use the handheld devices to do the tickets. So that was the printing and binding line item. And then the tracking of the parking tickets, that is also coming out of the police department budget now. So we were able to reduce those two line items. We do collect revenue in this department. We usually collect somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000 a year. Last year we collected almost 100,000. But for fiscal 21, I've seen a dramatic or a drastic decrease. And that's based on the pandemic. There's, you go downtown now, you can find any parking space you want. And so parking violations are down, and the monies we're collecting from the registry are down considerably. So, we probably won't even get half of what we got last year. So, I'm thinking, if we get 40,000 instead of 100,000 that we got last year, I'd be happy. So that's just FYI.
Anything else here?
None for me.
Okay. Go ahead, Kevin.
I think the last budget we have tonight is the Medicare budget, requesting an increase of $39,650 over last year. This budget is used to pay the town's portion of the Medicare tax, which is a salary-based tax for employees hired after 1986. That tax rate is 1.45%. I'm estimating a $2.7 million increase to Medicare eligible salaries for fiscal 22. I was looking at, the budgets that we've done so far, what the salary increases were so far. That was getting me to about a 3.5% increase. When I factor in what I think the schools may be coming in with for a salary increase, that brought it up to like 4.9%. So I rounded it up to 5% just to be on the safe side. So that got me to the budget of $832,650 next year.
Sounds pretty straightforward. And you already know what the schools are going to come in with, really, right?
I haven't seen that number.
Oh, I thought we were in like year 2 or 3 of a contract with them.
Year 2, I believe. However, we got to think about new hires and steps and tracks that we don't really know.
Steps and tracks.
It'd be nice if they could send that to you, but okay.
That'll be a good question for the finance committee when you meet with them in the subcommittee.
Hey, yeah, all right, got it. You're telling me it's my job. Got it.
I'm telling.
Got it. It sounds pretty straightforward, Kevin, though. Anything from our members?
None here. Looks straightforward.
All right. Anything else from Steve and Kevin? That was our last budget, right?
Yep.
Last one.
Unless there's anything else from the members, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, sign off. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, one.
Thank you,
Good night,
guys.
guys.
Nice meeting. Stay safe. Have a good weekend.